We're going to focus on course accessibility basics this afternoon. And my name is Tom Pantazes, as you know, and I'm an instructional designer here at the Office of Distance Education. And over the next 30 minutes, hopefully a little less, these are the four things that I'm hoping we can cover today. Just make sure you understand what accessibility is, why it's important. We're going to spend most of our time going through our list of best practices. And then at the end, I'll show you a couple tricks and a couple things that I think for you will mostly be a review of some of the items in the online faculty development course, but just making sure you have some knowledge and some understanding there. So let's just start with this question, and it's a good idea when doing synchronous sessions to make sure you're involving the students in some way, shape, or form at certain points throughout, and that it's not just a information dump for them. So what does it mean to make something accessible in an online course? Or what do you think it means?
What do I think it means?
Yes.
What, to make it accessible?
To make some,
I mean,
yes, to make some piece of content in your course accessible or to make your course itself accessible.
well, they have to be able to find it and open it and use whatever you've uploaded. Or I'm using all the wrong words because I don't do this now yet.
What? That's
Um,
okay.
but I mean, to me, access just means you have to know the particulars of how to get into it.
Exactly. And to be able to get into it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's what we're gonna focus on and work on some this afternoon here. So I have a definition of accessible that comes from the Office of U.S. Civil Rights, and you can see that up on the screen. Making sure that everyone who's participating in your class can get the same information, that they can engage in the same interactions, and that they can enjoy the same services, and that they're doing this in an equally effective, equally integrated, and as equivalent a use as possible given the circumstances of their particular situation. Um, and this definition is relatively recent one. If you'll see at the bottom, it comes from a resolution agreement in early 2013, and it's one that's been fairly frequently mentioned and used in a lot of the conversations around this topic in online learning over the last year or so. Now, it's not just um, something that's nice to do. It is, in fact, the law, and there are two laws that apply for us here at Westchester, and they apply because we get federal money, federal funding, and it's the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Rehabilitation Act. Um, so we're legally required to make sure that our educational environments are accessible to everyone who is participating in them. But beyond it being just a legal requirement, it's also the university has made it a point to highlight um, equality and educational experiences in their mission statement, in their value statement, and whatever the third one is, which we'll get to. So I pulled this line out of the mission statement, which you can see, committed to
Mm-hmm.
providing access and offering high quality education. And then from the vision statement, I pulled this out of there, that the faculty and staff will create a dynamic and supportive learning environment. And then value statement, that's what it is. You can see here about the university wants a diverse student body, high quality academic experience, productive and supportive, and that they're committed to a value of equity. Um, so the idea of trying to make environments accessible to all is something that is embedded in what the university says that it's about and what the university is trying to do as an educational institution. So we have some best practices that our office has prepared that are specific to online courses, and there are 21 of them. We're going to go through all 21.
Okay.
They're broken up into three sections. Feel free to jump in if you have questions as I'm going,
Okay.
and I will try to respond to those. This image has absolutely nothing to do with best practices. I just thought it was a nice one to look at. So we'll start off here with structuring content using the formatting and style tools that are already found in a lot of the things that we work with. And that the image that you see first there is from the top of a Microsoft Word document. And there's a whole section there with formatting options. It's called the Styles tool that before I learned about accessibility, I ignored, and I think most people ignore.
Mhm.
Um, but when you're making documents, particularly ones that have a lot of length to them, like a syllabus, it's good practice to incorporate the headings. So you would type a title out, say, for example, assignments or assessments, and then you might highlight that title and then select this option right here that I'm pointing to with the green arrow, which
Mhm.
is a heading one title. Um, and so then your next section might be let me think here, like course policies. And so you might highlight that title and also select the heading one command. And what you're doing is you're creating like an outline of your document in the background that a tool like a screen reader can use to help a student who is visually impaired move around throughout your document without having to sit and listen to everything that's on the page.
Okay.
In addition, while these style tools come with a preset of formatting, you can customize the formatting so that if you have a particular way you like headings to look, you can, you can just type the text, highlight it, and hit this button, and it's going to change the font and the bolding and the underlining and do all that for you right away rather than you having to click the bold and click the underline and change the font. So it can bring some value to you when you're preparing documents. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that it's there.
Mm-hmm. No, I've
Does this
learned.
make, yeah, I'd never used it until I started learning about this topic. Is this making sense?
Yep.
It definitely helps. And that there's six headings that are kind of standard that are used across the internet, and they're heading one through heading six. And you'll actually find them in Desire to Learn, which is the second picture, which is the in that box I have highlighted that starts with format. If you click that
Yep.
drop down, it includes heading one, heading two, heading three, heading four. So you can do some of that formatting on your Desire to Learn pages as well.
Okay.
Um, so best practice number two in creating um, content, uh, making sure that your hyperlink text is explained and that you're not just putting a link, or a lot of people like to use the click here. That's not the best way to put a link out there to make it accessible. And the reason for that is a screen. First off, it's pretty clear what you're going to get on that top one when you click on best practices for creating an accessible online course. If you click here, it doesn't really tell you where it's going. You have to keep reading to get the context. And a screen reader is going to go link, click here for the Office of Distance Education best practices. Whereas the top example, it would go link best practices for creating an accessible online course. It's just easier on someone who has to listen to the document rather than look at it. And the same thing goes when you put an actual URL into the document. It would go link
That's
http colon
right.
backslash backslash wcupa.edu backslash distan. So you can see right there how annoying that could get if they had to sit there and listen to link after link after link. Um, the one caveat to that is if it's a document that you're printing out in hard copy and giving to someone, you obviously can't do the top piece because the student wouldn't know where that link is going. So you
Okay,
do have to be
question.
a little attentive to audience. Go ahead. Um, so item number three is you want to avoid documents where you cannot copy and paste the text. And traditionally this happens when you take something and scan it to PDF, and you scan it to PDF as an image PDF and not as a text-based PDF. Um, and the easy way to check if you've scanned it the right way is to try to copy and paste the text in the PDF. And again, this is a screen reader type thing. Screen readers can't read pictures. They can only read text. So if it's not copy and pastable, then it can't be read by a screen reader. There are services available that can take a document that you have in hard copy and scan it in so that it is scanned as text. You could talk to our office or the library about help with that. Item number 4, short text descriptions of image-based content. So I have an image blacked out here to give you that effect. But if you look at the caption, I bet you have a pretty good sense of what this picture that's blacked
Mm-hmm.
out is. And have you looked at the caption?
Yes,
Okay, so here's the image. How did I do?
very well.
I think I did pretty well. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
again, that goes for folks who visually may struggle. It helps them understand uh, what that image was and why it might be important to the educational environment. But it also um, can help other students who are looking at an image going, okay, why is this important? Okay, now I understand because here's what the caption said. Part of this is related. I don't know how much experience you have with D2L, but when you add pictures to D2L, it automatically asks you for something called an alt tag, ALT, and the alt tag is the text that lives behind the picture that a screen reader will read for someone. So um, it's important that you include the alt text. This one's pretty self-explanatory. If you do create a video and you're going to host it on YouTube, either you or our office have to help you get the caption file up. But the university also has a service called Kaltura/MyMedia that you can host videos through. And if you host a video through that, there's a service that will caption them for us. If you go that route, you do have to review the captioned video to make sure they got it right. They're about 98% accurate, give or take. And then so you kind of review their first product, identify what needs to be changed, send that off, they make the changes, and then at that point it's usually a good to go. So we do have captioning support here if you need it, and it is highly recommended. And it's recommended that you do it kind of as you go rather than waiting for when you get told you have someone that needs it. You need to make sure your resources are captioned. It's usually a rush at that point to try to get it done. I'm not going to say any more about this one. It's pretty easy to understand. General rule of thumb is no less than 18-point fonts on PowerPoint slides. If you have to go smaller than that, you're including too much information. And generally the 10 to 12 range when actually printing something. 10 to 12 point font when printing something. Uh, Another aspect of accessibility is just making sure you're being attentive to folks that might be colorblind and have difficulty dealing with color. I provided a website where I'm breaking my own accessibility rule there. Um, that's helpful in identifying good color combinations. This is more of a design thing and it may not necessarily apply. Sticking with black and white is a safe choice, but something to be aware of.
Okay.
I like this one. This one tends to crop up a lot. This, I was talking with someone earlier who's relatively new to the university like I am, and we agreed that this Westchester likes to use their acronyms, which is great if you know what they are, but it can be a little confusing if you don't. The safe thing to do is to always spell everything out. And just to give you an example, I'll read these two portions. Office hours are MT and R from 6 to 8 p.m. Go to the ODE to get the CAPC DECERT period. Do you have any idea what that means?
Well, I asked about R, so I know that's Thursday now because I
Yes.
didn't know. And some kind of certification, I guess. But
They
no,
are.
go with
I wrote the exact
go with
same thing right below it. Office hours are Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Go to the Office of Distance Education to get the Curriculum and Academic Policies Council Distance Education certification. So just being aware of those when you're writing things and trying to be careful about spelling things out, and it, it you're being as clear as you can be, and that's always important in the online environment.
Well, being old school, I was taught the first time you use an acronym, you must
Hmm.
write it out first, and then you
Yes,
put it in parentheses, and then you may use it in the rest of your document.
yes,
But
and
that's
that's okay because you've identified what it is in the document. Now, it's not okay if you have it in one document and then another document in the future in the course. You just use the whole abbreviation. You still have to set that up again, but it sounds like you do that anyway. So those are all the creating accessibility items. Now we move into the planning accessibility items. I think this is fairly self-explanatory, but it takes on some added importance in the online environment that you're clear, that you're consistent, and that you're organized. Um, one less thing for students to have to wrestle with. And typically, if you work with an instructional designer from our office, we help make sure that this is in place. I don't know your knowledge, but there's a common myth that because they're young, they are very good with technology, and that is a myth. They are not. They're all over the map. Some are very good, and some are not, just like everyone else in the world. Um, so the accessible thing to do is to make sure that you provide plenty of support and documentation and help for tools that you're using or having students use in the class, so that there's a how-to video and how-to directions, or here's the phone number you call if you're having trouble with this tool. Um, that's an important part of making your course accessible. I don't know how much of an educational background you have, but one of the things that's good in education is to include some variety in the way that you present material. And one of the terms for it is called universal design and learning. That for everything you want students to know, that you presented it in text, in visual, and in auditory ways. That way, if students have a method that they learn better from, that they're getting exposed to the information in that. If there's a method that they have a disability in, that there's other methods they can go to. Um, just trying to be aware of that as you're presenting material. It also helps with engagement, um, as students tend to find materials that mix much more engaging than just I have to read this, I have to read this, I have to read this. So use examples that are relevant to a wide swath of people, to a variety of people. And I'm kind of using the negative example here when I say I want you to come up with an activity like the William and Mary Triathlon. Do you have any idea what I mean by that?
the William and Mary Triathlon.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's at the college in Virginia and has the three parts: running and biking and swimming. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so you don't, because that's not an example that's relevant to you. It's only relevant to people that go to William and Mary, like myself. Um,
Ah, I
so
didn't hear
that would be a bad thing to include in a course, or a bad way to set it up.
that.
Um, so when working on your course, make sure you're using things that people are going to understand.
They have a perspective they can attach to it. Okay.
Yes, yes. Outlines and scaffolding are helpful. One way that we try to scaffold our online classes, and really good instruction does this, you say, here's what you're going to learn. You give them the material to help them learn it, and then you test them to see how well they learned it. And in that test, hopefully you're providing feedback so that they can adjust the things they didn't get and then move forward based on that and build upon that, the scaffold upon that. Um, I don't see this as a super difficult concept, and I think a lot of people do it without even thinking about it.
Okay.
Again, I think this one makes sense. The idea that make sure you give students an opportunity to practice with the skills that you're teaching them or the knowledge that you want them to learn. That if you're teaching them how to analyze a piece of text, that you give them chances to practice that and to get feedback and to learn where they did it right and where they did it wrong and to get better. Practice makes perfect, right? Or almost perfect.
Absolutely.
And going along with that is that you provide enough time for these activities and these practice. That particularly for students who may have a disability that forces them to or requires them to need more time, that you've incorporated that into your planning process. And as I've talked about on a couple of these, making sure that there's chance for feedback and corrective opportunity, because really that's how we learn. We try something, we make mistakes, we identify those mistakes, we work on getting better at those mistakes, and we try it again. So the last couple, I think there's 5 more in the communication section here. Clear directions. So I want you to look at what I have on the screen here and tell me, is that clear?
Oh, wait 1 second. Chapter 1, PowerPoint. No.
All right, so what's not clear?
Okay, so read and review. You go to the textbook and you read chapter 1. Then you go to PowerPoint handouts, and I guess you're supposed to look at those
If you click them, they'll open the PowerPoint
two
files.
PowerPoint. Oh, you want me to do that?
No, you can't actually click them. This is a picture.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm
Then
just,
full value contract, learning strategies, group promos, PBL planning. No, I don't know what that wants me to do. The full value contract.
it's
No, I
still
don't know
under
what that
the,
one wants me to do.
okay. They're still under the read and review heading. Read and review these things.
Well, where do I find that thing? That
You
full
click on
value
those,
contract. Where am I?
you would click on that link
Oh, just click on the link. Okay.
and it would
And then
open.
dietetics friends assignment, the assignment and the template. Well, I guess if you're used to looking at things in this format, I guess it does make sense. I'm just not used to
Okay.
seeing this.
Well, this one's an interesting one because some people will say, yeah, this is really clear. And for other people, they'll go, I'm not so sure. But if someone explained to you, okay, here's how I'm laying this out, here's how you'll find each week's worth of work, then it would probably be more clear, correct?
Yeah, so it's sending me to 4 different, well, more than 4 places, I guess.
It is sending you to more than 4 things.
The text, 2 PowerPoints, and then just links for the other
6
things.
documents and then 2 more documents under the dietics trends assignment. And then you have to watch that video at the bottom. But it's really important in online courses and distance education courses that you're very clear about what is expected. Please do these things. Read and review these documents. When you're in our online course, you'll see how we do it a little differently than this, which I think is a little clearer. But you can tell me if it's not, because we always appreciate feedback. This variety idea comes back here, making sure that students have some couple different ways to contact you, whether it be email, phone, office hours. That's a good mix right there. If there's collaborative projects, that there's some variety in how they can collaborate and what they're collaborating on, and that you provide a number of different supports, that there's text-based support and video-based support, like in the sense of text-based directions and video-based directions, and they can call someone who's a live person. Kind of trying to make sure that we're covering our bases and providing students with an opportunity to get the help that they need. You are required to include a disability services statement in your syllabus as a faculty member. But we also suggest that you add a statement to your syllabus saying, that if students come across things that they don't find to be accessible, that they let you know that A, it wasn't accessible, and B, how you might make it more accessible. I think that shows that you're invested in them being able to access materials, and that you want things to be accessible, and that if they're not, you want to know so that you can make it accessible.
Because otherwise you're wasting your time. If they can't use it,
Yes,
what good is it?
exactly. And sometimes things seem accessible to us and they are not to others. I mean, and this last one comes up particularly with email. I've been hearing a lot from faculty who feel like they're inundated with questions from students via email. And one of the things I ask is, have you established standards? What's expected? When you're going to respond? How frequently you respond? How should students be sending the email to you? I know a lot of faculty ask that they include the course number or name so that they know which course they're referencing. That you are clear about discussion protocol and how to behave in an online discussion. Just making sure that if you have standards that you've communicated them, and that we don't assume people know what you want.
I was looking at Dr. Subak's syllabus for the course before mine, the one she's teaching now, and um, as you're saying these things, I'm thinking, oh yeah, she did that. Oh yeah, she did that. Thinking of the different pieces. So
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I know some of it is fairly straightforward and is in place. I'm going to switch over to my screen now, so I can show you some of those things that we talked about, and then also a couple other things. So I'm going to start with that URL question that you had. Can you see my Desire to Learn site? Is it
yes.
showing up? Yeah, okay. Um, let's see. I think I might be able to do it in here. Yes. So with a Desire to Learn page, and they can take some different, they can look different just depending on how they're set up. Um, when you're editing them, so you're in a place where you can add text, like I'm typing right now. So you would type out the name of the link. So best practices for accessibility. That would be the first thing that you do. You get the text that you want. And then you highlight it. And it's the third button in from the left, the one that looks like a infinity sign or a light with a little lightning bolt above it. It's called the quick link button. And this button you'll actually use quite a bit in your course because it allows you to connect to anything in your D2L course, like discussion boards or Dropboxes or quizzes. But at the very bottom is one that's called URL for any outside web addresses. And you would just paste in the address here. I am using CNN because it's an easy one to remember. Um, and then you either say same frame, which means it's going to open in that exact same window, or what we usually say is new window. And you'd click insert, and you'll see now it's turned it into a link. So if I update this page, it's like a sideways 8. It's this one right here.
Okay.
So I highlight the text, I click on that, and then I can connect to lots of different things in the course. If I've set up a Dropbox or a discussion board or a quiz, I can connect directly to it. The very last one is called URL, which is what these are. They're URL addresses. If I click on that one, it's then going to ask me, okay, where am I supposed to go? And you put in the address. So that was URL in Desire to Learn. To do it in a Word document, actually, let's do William & Mary. William & Mary website. You would type the text again. You would highlight it again. This time, though, what I like to do is hold down the Control key on my keyboard and tap K, because that's the quick key for insert hyperlink. You can also get there from right-clicking on it. You'll see here there's a hyperlink option in the menu. So if I select that, it gets me back to this screen. And I'm pretty sure you can go through insert up at the top here, and a hyperlink is right there. So 3 ways to get to the same place. Once you're on this screen, you just put the address in the bar where I'm typing right now, right down here. And you click OK, and it will turn it into a hyperlink. Alt text. Let me go back to, and I'll show you the alt text. So let's just pretend I want to put a picture in here. This button here is insert image, and I've already loaded the image to my course, or you can upload it directly, but I'm just trying to make this easy. And I select add. I'm going to get this box here that says alternative text. A lot of people just skip it, but what I would say then is whatever, this is where I would put the description of the image for the alternative text, and then I would click OK. And it would insert the image. There's Lindsay, actually. Huh, that's funny. And if the image were to fail to load, the text would appear in its place. And for a screen reader, it wouldn't. It would say image, and then here's the alt text. So for someone who was visually impaired, they would get the descriptive language. You can also do alt text in Word documents by right-clicking on the image, going to Format Picture, and I'm pretty sure it's this Layout and Properties. You'll see there's an alt text box here on the right, and oh, look at that, someone put the alt text in. So that one's already configured correctly. So we were talking about headings earlier. If I highlight this here, it's a heading, and you'll see up in the style box that someone selected heading 2 for it. And then this one here, someone also selected heading 2 for that one. So this document has the headings that have been inserted. Now, if I want to look at the outline for the document, I can go to the View tab up here, and there's a box next to Navigation Pane. And so you can see here how this provides an outline for this document, even though it's a 14-page document. So if my screen reader was reading, I could have it read these lines and help me figure out which page I want to go to, rather than having to sit through 14 pages of text to get to the thing that I wanted that was on page 13. The other cool thing about this, and a lot of people don't know this, is you can actually move these sections around on your document once you've set up those headers. So if I want outcome measures to be above course student learning outcomes, I can just drag it and it will automatically move that section to that spot on my document. So I think I have this MSNCP. If I want to move that to the bottom, it will automatically move it down. So that's a very helpful way for kind of organizing your document once you have all your sections in place, getting them in the order that you want. So there is some benefit to doing it besides helping people who need it. One last thing about Word documents, and we'll call it good for the day. When you have a Word document and you want to check its accessibility, you can go to File in the upper left, and then in the middle here there's a button that says Check for Issues, and the middle one is a Check Accessibility. So if I do that, it's going to run a checker that's going to give me the things that it's noticed that are issues. It doesn't catch everything, but it does a good job of highlighting if you skipped an alt text or if you have a link that isn't written the right way. Sometimes you can't fix the problem, and this is a good one right here. Object's not in line. There's this box here, and ideally she should put it below, but because of the way things are set up, she has it over here. But this is kind of a nice way for you to get some assistance at finding the things that could be corrected. One of the ones that it likes to highlight are these characters, and the issue there is with screen readers, it will go instructor space 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 office HSC 307. So because the screen readers aren't always that intelligent. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. I would argue here with this one that she should have everything in a line rather than but that gives you an idea of how that works. So do you have any questions at this point?
Hmm. I mean, no, everything you've shown me makes sense. It's just my concern of remembering it all, you know.
Yes, and I'll make sure you get some resources to help you with that. Let me
Once I
jump
do
to,
it a few times, I've got it. And if it's something I use, reasonably often, no problem. It's just much, much new and, haven't done it before.
yes,
So,
yes. And our office is certainly here to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need assistance.
I'm
Um,
sure I will. You're going to be
and
tired of me probably, but yeah, I will
we
definitely help.
don't get tired of faculty that are saying, please help me make this good.
Okay.
So um, I will say too that uh, it's a process. Like you don't get everything ready and great the first time. Like we work through to keep making things better each time you offer or teach a particular course. If there are no more questions, that's the end of the presentation. My contact info is down there, but I'm pretty sure you have all that already. Um, One last thing I want to highlight that goes along with that support idea is that we do have after hours support available for both faculty and students, Monday through Thursday, 4:30 to 10 in the evening, and Sunday from 12 to 8. So please don't hesitate to use that if you do need some assistance. Amber Grove, who's over here, she is our support specialist right now, and we'll have another one at some point in the next month or two. So we're here to help.